Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Lost Tribes and India. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video. If you end up liking it, hit the notification bell, leave your comments, and make sure to share this video on social media. So this is a continuation of my 10 Lost Tribes series that I'm doing. And in this video, I'm doing this one today because yesterday, while I was at church, I was on Facebook and I saw a meme that just kind of it showed the world map of temples, right? And I was just kind of like looking at it and like thinking about this map in terms of this series that I'm doing. And I kind of realized that, you know what, where we currently have temples, it kind of seems like those are the locations where historically there's been myths or legends about people descending from Israel, like the British Isles. Of course, we know for a fact that there were a lot of Jews in the Iberian Peninsula, but also from this article that we're going to go over here from Wikipedia, which I had seen before a long time ago, before like back when I was like a teenager. Well, we're in my early 20s or something like that. There's a bunch of other groups that claim that they're from Israel, including groups from India, groups from Japan, Kurds, Pashtuns in Afghanistan, Ethiopians, Nigerians, and so I was just kind of like looking at this and how it seems like, now, I mean, of course, a lot of this is just going to be simply because of missionary work and wherever Christianity has been spread to, but I think there's more going on than just that with where the temples are. I think that they do kind of correspond to where maybe some of the lost 10 tribes are, where they had sizable populations and spread their DNA and intermarried with local populations. So today we're going to focus on India. So blue indicates that this is a temple that's being constructed. So they do not yet have a temple, but they are officially getting one and it's being constructed. I remember from a long time ago, before I got like really serious about studying the Second Coming, I was very interested in, the 10 Lost Tribes, and I was also very interested in temples. And actually on this website right here, Church of Jesus Christ Temples.org, which is a private website, but a very good one, and I'm sure that you've probably come here yourself. All the way back in 1992, and this always stunned me. I was like, whoa. This right here, this page is a list of proposed temples by like general authorities and such. So there's this one that was proposed in 1992. I'm just going to read this here. In June 1992, Elder Neil A. Maxwell visited the saints of New Delhi where, quote, prophecies were given conditional upon members sharing, the term used by Elder Maxwell to mean fellowshipping and teaching friends about the gospel, that Delhi would have a Latter-day Saint temple and great expansion of the work, end quote. At the time, there were fewer than 1,000 members in India. So 1992, fewer than 1,000 members in India. But despite the great cost in time and money to travel to the closest temples in Hong Kong, China, and Manila, Philippines, the Indian saints began to go. President Gurcharan Singh Gill, a native Indian and professor of mathematics at BYU, who had been called to serve as the first president of the India Bengaluru mission, made it his goal to assist more members to become worthy to attend the temple. He reported, "We had 37 people go to the temple, and 15 families were sealed together with their parents and children. That has really been a spark. Now the people know what being married forever means, what we have that other people don't have, how our temple marriages are so sacred and different than their marriages from other churches and so forth. Those people have come back and really stirred the members into doing family history work, genealogy work, and beginning to pay tithes so that they can go to the temple someday. It has really spurred a lot of enthusiasm." So I found that, again, fascinating. This was before the announcement of the Bangalore temple that's being constructed right now, I was just like, wow, they were like thinking about it back in 1992. And you know, if you're familiar with them, if you've been a member for a while, you know that Elder Neely Maxwell was not an idiot, and he was not just he wasn't like a magical thinker. This was a very smart individual. So something was going on back then to where he was thinking that it very well was going to happen, and it probably was through revelation and prophecy. He probably foresaw, maybe not specifically, because right here he's talking about a new Delhi temple, but he probably foresaw a temple coming to India, and maybe there will be a new Delhi temple someday. So, okay, so we have this temple that's getting constructed right now as we speak in Bengaluru. Okay, and if we look at the map, Bengaluru is down here, kind of like in the southern area of India. I wouldn't say at the tip, but it's kind of like very south central India right here. Okay, now we're going to be talking about a group of people that are actually from over here. It's called Kochi, also known, it's also called Cochin, or there was like one of these groups here from this Wikipedia article that, okay, well, let me put it this way. So I'm through this series, I'm gonna go through like all these different groups, and I'm starting here with the Cochin Jews. Okay, so these are Jews that lived here in the cities in and around Kochi. All right. So this article is divided into a few different parts. First, you have people that claimed Israelite descent with lineage proven and recognized as Jews. And then we have another section here, claimed Israelite descent with lineage unproven, but recognized as Jews. And then claimed Israelite descent with lineage unproven, not recognized officially as Jews. And then non-Jewish groups with proven Israelite lineage, which is interesting. All right. And then affiliation claimed independent of membership with the Jewish people. And you have 10 lost tribes, and then you have the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Really cool. Okay, so we're going to go through this, and I think that there's actually even more groups, but I'm going to start with this Wikipedia article, and we're going to look into it and see what we can find. So this group of Jews right here, the Cochin Jews, they are officially recognized as Jews by, I guess, chief rabbis in Israel, and we're going to read a little bit about them. Okay, so Israelite traders came to Kerala, India, which is near Kochi, as early as 700 BC and settled there. So 700 BC, you have to think about what was going on in Israel at the time. This would have been actually after the Assyrian conquest of the northern kingdom in 722 BC. Okay, so right here, and I haven't done like a really deep dive into this, but I'm doing just like what's sufficient for right now. So we had around the time of the northern kingdom being destroyed, Israelite traders and settlers going to India, to this area. So that's a long time ago. They've had a presence since the time of the destruction of the northern kingdom. Were these people from the southern kingdom? Were they from the northern kingdom? I haven't been able to determine that, and I think that the details are sketchy at best. So I don't think it's really possible to come to a conclusion on that. Maybe there is. Maybe I have to do more research, but I think it's very possible that some of them, at least, would be from the 10 lost tribes, right? There's probably a bunch of them that were part of these groups that were trading and also settling in India. Let's go back to the map. So just remember, We have Kochi right here, which is over on the west coast, the southwest coast of India. And then you have Bengaluru up here, which is actually relatively close when you look at the whole country of India, okay, which goes from all the way up here, all the way down to here, and then it goes from here to over here. Like these two areas are pretty close. In fact, why don't we see how long it takes to drive from Bengaluru to Kochi? I'm actually just doing this on the fly. Okay. All right, here's the Bengaluru India temple that's being constructed. And how far is that from Kochi? How long does it take? Whoa, 9 hours and 55 minutes by car. That's actually kind of farther than I was expecting. But still, that's closer than all these other areas in India. If you're like over here in Kolkata, or Mumbai is right here. There's some other one, New Delhi is up here. Okay, so relatively speaking, it's pretty close. Okay. All right, so let's go back here. Cochin Jews, also called Malabar Jews, are the descendants of Israelites who settled in the southern Indian port city of Cochin. They traditionally spoke Judeo-Malayalam, a form of Malayalam tongue native to the state of Kerala. Several rounds of immigration of the Jewish diaspora into Kerala led to the diversity among the Cochin Jews. So in other words, there's basically been waves of Jews from different places coming there, because I guess it basically became kind of like a hub, right? Like if you were going to go to India and you were a Jew, you wanted to go to this community. So I guess you can think of it as like the Mesa, Arizona of the Eastern world. Sorry. It's not that funny. Of the Eastern world, okay? So, all right, okay. Some sources say that the earliest Jews were those who settled in Malabar coast during the reign of Solomon. Okay, so that's when Israel was united. There weren't two kingdoms during Solomon. It was right after him, and after the kingdom of Israel split into two. They're sometimes referred to as the Black Jews. Now, that makes sense because probably the earlier you settle in India, the more likely it is that over time you're going to start to mix in with the local population. And so traditionally, when you look at Jews today, or if you just look at Middle Easterners, any Middle Easterners really, they tend to be lighter skinned than in India. In India, you can get pretty dark, and so compared to the Middle East, Pakistan, India, they're more darker skinned than like Jordan or Saudi Arabia, Iran, places like that. So it would make sense that their skin color would probably change as they intermix with the population there. Okay, now the Paradesi or Paradesi, I don't know, Jews, also called white Jews, settled later, coming to India from Middle Eastern and European nations such as the Netherlands and Spain, and bringing with them the Ladino language. A notable settlement of Spanish and Portuguese Jews, Sephardim, because the Jews that went to the Iberian Peninsula, they're called Sephardic Jews, I guess is what you would call them. Sephardim would be like the more like Hebrew term for it. Starting in the 15th century, was at Goa, but this settlement eventually disappeared. In the 17th and 18th centuries, Cochin received an influx of Jewish settlers from the Middle East, North Africa, and Spain. So those are those waves that I was telling you about. So you can read the rest of this if you want. I'm going to go ahead and move on. I wanted to just kind of like verify that there were some sources to this, because like this section right here it says that, this section does not cite any sources. So I found another one that does have sources, and it's also in Wikipedia, but you can also find the same stuff here in Britannica. All right, and then I found some really neat videos on YouTube. I'm going to put them in the description below that you can check out, that has to do with the Cochins. And this is one of those guys. So essentially what happened is, once Israel became a state, there in the 50s, basically all of them that were there, or the vast majority of them, picked up and left, and they went to Israel. And as you can see here, I stopped on this part of the video because he's saying, we've been here for the last 1900 years or more. And then over here, this lady's talking about, they're not wandering around the world. They're only coming to the land of Israel. So basically, it seems that most Israelites, and I'm going to say Israelites and not Jews, because I really do think it's very likely that some of the 10 lost tribes made their way there, that there were groups of Israelites that came here. So it wasn't just Judah and Benjamin and Levi. I think it was the other tribes as well. So they basically, once they found this place, it seems like they kind of stayed until the state of Israel was created. And then in the 50s, they pretty much all picked up and left. And you can check out these videos. Here is a picture of some of them. It says group portrait before immigration to Israel. And this is around 1950. And as you can see, like, if you didn't know any better, you would just say, oh yeah, these are a bunch of just Indian people. They look very Indian. And this is probably, I mean, I'm sure that the quote unquote, the white Jews that came, they probably all ended up looking like this, or mostly like this, except for this guy. You can see, he has blue eyes and he still kind of looks pretty white. So it seems like there's probably a lot of diversity within this group. But here you go. You have this group, they pick up and they left. Okay, now I want to go over the church history in India, okay? And there's a couple interesting things here. All right, so the restored gospel reached India in 1849 through tracts from Orson Hyde and preaching by Latter-day Saint sailors. The first missionaries arrived in 1851. So that's kind of interesting because, this was about 100 years before this mass exodus to Israel. And I'm not saying that these are necessarily directly related, but just like how Orson Hyde dedicated Israel for the gathering, maybe him having gone to India did have something to do with it. So let's continue. Over 300 Europeans and Indians joined the church before the mission closed in 1856. A few members remained in the subcontinent into the 1930s, and later 3 missions to British India took place. Now, that's another interesting thing to note, okay? In previous videos, I noted how, let's go to the world map here. I noted how the Pashtuns in Afghanistan and in Pakistan, like in this area here, basically seem to have been there for a very, very long time. It could be that, they were part of the lost 10 tribes, a branch that was broken off that eventually made their way here. So I don't know how long they've actually been here, but it's been for at least 1,000 years, or probably a couple thousand years. Well, it's interesting that right now, the millennium has begun, at least according to our Gregorian calendar. We are in a new millennium, and we are very close to the second coming, okay? And we have this war that took place in this area where there are almost certainly some of the 10 lost tribes here that have been just living here forever. And now there's this big exodus taking place. People trying to flee the Taliban. Those who enjoyed freedom are now, a bunch of them came over to the United States. You remember those pictures in the news of, in fact, let's see if we can find one of those pictures. Afghanistan, immigration, yeah. Afghanistan immigration. This might be something for another day, actually. But this is the picture that I was thinking of. You remember these pictures of all these Afghans that were getting on these C-17s and whatever other planes there were. Right here it says more than 100,000 Afghan nationals are seeking humanitarian visas from Australia, officials have revealed. I don't want to go on too long of a tangent. I just want to find out, let's see, how many Afghan refugees, in the U.S. So this is September 15th of 2021, Wall Street Journal. The U.S. evacuated at least 65,000 Afghans, according to numbers provided by the Pentagon and the Department of Homeland Security. The White House has said it is expecting to resettle up to 95,000 Afghans in the U.S., the majority of whom are expected to arrive by the end of September. That number could include other Afghans who are able to leave their country after the withdrawal was completed, either on a commercial flight or over a land border. Okay, so getting back to my point, it's interesting that events in these last days has brought us, the United States, the promised land for Joseph, brought us over here. We came to this area where there's a group of the Lost 10 Tribes. We occupied it for 20 years, we left it, and now they're being forced to leave here, a place that they've been for thousands of years. They are being gathered in, it would seem. It would seem to me like the Lord is having them go to their promised lands, whether it could, Australia, but more notably the United States and also Israel, because I know a lot of them actually have gone to Israel. Now, in regards to India, we had the British, which I'm going to be doing a video on this. There's a lot of evidence that seems to suggest that the British Isles have a heavy concentration of Israelite blood in them, probably from the 10 lost tribes. And again, I've said this multiple times, but we know that Joseph Smith, who has ancestry from England, was a pure Ephraimite, right? And so it's interesting that in the course of time, in the 20th, well, I guess I don't know how long that they were there for. I don't know when the British came to India. I know at least that they were there in the 1800s. I don't know how long India was part of the British Empire, but that's not the point. The point is, you have this nation that has a sizable, presumably a sizable Israelite population that comes over here to another country that has other populations of Israelites, and they occupy the place, just like the United States occupied Afghanistan. And if you're familiar with Britain, there are many Indians who have migrated from India to Britain, and also other places within the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth meaning Australia, they're part of the Commonwealth, Canada, some of the Caribbean islands are part of the Commonwealth, South Africa. So it's interesting and probably intentional that the British came here to basically be that catalyst that would have Indians who probably have some of this Israelite DNA in them to leave and go to Britain, and also to come over here to America. All right, so let's go back here. So I think it's significant that the British were there. The first baptism in independent India took place in 1961 when Elder Spencer W. Kimball, which is interesting that he did the first baptism in India, baptized Mangal Dan Dipti. Where Dan? Seriously, Dan. Now, I'm not too familiar with Hindi or any of the other languages that are spoken in Afghan or in India, but I think you have to kind of wonder about this name here. Dan is one of the 10 lost tribes, right? So, is there more going on here than you might think? You know, you could easily just kind of like hurry and read past this, but when you stop and you look, you know, that's fascinating that this man has Dan as his middle name. Fascinating. And this was in New Delhi. Though a mission was not established at the time, people continued to find their way into the church, one of a city and two of a family, in different parts of the country. And that comes from Jeremiah 3:14. For example, as Paul Thiruthuvados was converted by a pamphlet he found in a used bookstore in 1954. And that's an interesting time for him to do that because it was the 1950s when those Cochin Jews picked up and left and immigrated to Israel using the law of return. Because Israel has a law that if you are vetted as a Jew, then you have a right to immigrate to Israel. You belong there, and you can go. And he began preaching the gospel near Coimbatore. In 1978, Edwin and Elsie Dharma Raju, expatriate Indians, called as missionaries to their homeland, established a branch in Hyderabad. In 1993, a mission in India was finally organized. Reactivation efforts, leadership development, and conversions led to a rapid increase in the number of branches. Visa restrictions limited the number of foreign missionaries, but local members helped carry the work forward, and church membership in the country increased tenfold in the next 20 years. Even as many members immigrated. The first stake in India was organized in Hyderabad in 2012. Okay. So I'm gonna leave it there. I was gonna do more, but I actually have to go right now. Someone just came to the house, so I'll either do a part 2 of this, or I'll just include this information in future videos because there's actually other Indian groups that claim Israelite heritage. So we'll probably be coming back to the topic of India. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, hit the notification bell. Please share my videos as much as you can with those that you think would be interested in it, and I'll talk to you guys later.